Well, hello and welcome to our movie review for Captain America Civil War. Stephen, of course, on Friday there we did review Captain America the Winter Soldier, which was the prequel to this, the setup to this ensemble epic in the Captain America trilogy. Another Russo brothers directed movie. Stephen, this is almost like a proper Avengers movie. Obviously Age of Ultron came out the year prior, 2015. A lot of people were disappointed by that movie. I think it still grossed circa $1.5 billion though, so it wasn't a flop. It just wasn't Endgame, Avengers, Infinity War level. But a lot of people seen that as an Avengers 1.5. They watched this and it fulfilled them. This was almost like a better Avengers movie than Age of Ultron. What was your thoughts before we actually get into the meat and bone of this review? Prior to the release of this, were you anticipating this perhaps greater than Age of Ultron? Because as you do know, I don't really like Age of Ultron. I think it's underwhelming. John, it gave us vision. So
I did say that, exactly, John. It gave us one of the best characters. But I said on Friday as well, that it was either Thursday, Friday, I can't remember what one it was. But I did say the Age of Ultron film set up it branched off into three other things that had to be dealt with. In this case, yes, to answer your question, because of the Winter Soldier, how good that film was, how it was setting things up for the next story, and the continuation of the relationship between Cap and Bucky. So that was what I was looking forward to in this film. But there's other things we'll obviously get into. There's cameos and stuff like that. But I mean, the trailer sold it anyway. I don't even think they had to put a trailer out for this, to be honest with you, but it's probably one of the most watched trailers for a certain character turning up as well. Absolutely. Which we'll obviously talk about as well.
Stephen, look, Age of Ultron, before I actually win, was important as well, because also we had the Sokovia incident with the big huge chunk of land coming out the city, and the destruction that caused lays the foundation of dissent within the Avengers. And what happens with Thaddeus and whatnot in this movie, it lays down what causes some of the fractures in the Avengers in this movie. But Stephen, the introduction to this, very intriguing. It goes back to 1991, which is probably the first time we've went that far back in that Avengers MCU movie. I know obviously in Captain Marvel later on it was mid-90s. I may be wrong.
Well,
there may
the first
be flashbacks.
Avenger it wasn't a flashback though, John. It was set in the 1940s, so this is probably the first time,
And then obviously Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 goes back to like the 70s with obviously Kurt Russell's Eagle, but I think that was after this, so this may have been in the timeline. If I'm wrong, you may correct me. First time we went back that far. Very interesting shot, not much context to it though. It's obviously the Winter Soldier being brainwashed. I suppose what it does is it lays down that this guy's brainwashed. These certain arrangement of words cause this brainwash. They cause him to be under control of who utters the words. And then it shows us that he's going off to retrieve what is clearly super soldier serum. We don't know the identity of the car drivers or occupants. Kills them, takes the serum, and then that's it. It cuts to the now famous Marvel intro. What did you make about that introduction? Do you think it did enough? It was a little bit ambiguous what was happening, for lack of a better word. It didn't really reveal much, but obviously it has ramifications for later on. We go back to that sequence a couple of times, and then it's all revealed pretty beautifully.
That's what it is, John. You just said the word. It sets up the reveal. As far as sequences go, I think it just looks at the time. Obviously, we're talking in hindsight now. We know exactly what happened, but at the time, it just looks like it's another mission for the Winter Soldier. It was very clinical. The way the car hits the tree. He goes back. We know it's him, and obviously he delivers. His mission. He's completed that mission, and that's what you take out of it from that point of view. But it's a good setup, John. It shows you. Once more we're going into sort of the dark areas of the MCU. That's one of the things. Probably for the first half of the film, I think it's quite a dark film. It kind of lightens up once we get to the airport scenes and there's a bit more humour involved and stuff like that. And it does feel more like a Avengers sort of 2.5 film, if you like, Yeah,
Stephen, obviously that sequence afterwards, it's a lot more action-packed. Again, I think out with revealing Rumlow is now Crossbones briefly and he gets killed. I don't know what the point to that is. Perhaps just setting up these early relationships, but even then Black Widow's there, so it doesn't really, because she obviously flip-flops over to Tony Stark's side of things later on in the movie. But it's a very, very cool sequence, that action-packed. The cinematography going through these little narrow market streets and whatnot. Just wonderful. All of the fighting. Rumlow's very cool as well. For the shot of Crossbones, I should say, is very cool. The shot while he's in this movie, he wrecks Black Widow at one point, throws a grenade in, says, "I'm not that kind of guy anymore." Then he shoots a rocket or something at, obviously, Captain America. Very, very cool, but he meets his demise anyway. But I suppose what it's showing is all of these people just coming in through from Age of Ultron. They're all working very well as a tight-knit team.
It's very interesting, John, that
Hydra's still there.
We were talking just before we started recording in regards to Frank Grillo's participation in this film and how wasted it felt, just having Crossbones set up like this. But I do recall, it's just popped into my head, we were actually talking about Frank Grillo in one of our news shows possibly 3-4 months ago. I can't remember. And he was signed up for... I think he had one of the longest contracts out of all the actors that had still to be fulfilled. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere he's going to appear in one of the television series as Crossbones in one of maybe the multiverse or something like that.
Could happen.
I think it's the only way he can come back alive. But it just popped into my head there. That would make a lot of sense.
Multiverse of Madness. Could appear in that.
Yeah.
Stephen, I think he had a 3-year deal or something, picture deal still to go. But I think Marvel tend to do that. They tend to tie actors into multi-contracts so they can then lay the foundations in future. If they want to go a certain route, they then have that leeway to bring them back in for other movies.
If they kill
them
off, Holland,
exactly. If they want to kill them off, then they just, whatever, you're not getting your picture, we don't have to pay you.
Well,
it's based
I
on
think they would,
payments.
I think they would
Possibly. But look, he's such a cool guy, a great actor. He's just a great stunt coordinator and whatnot. Likes to get hands on. Can imagine what he was doing in that elevator sequence in Winter Soldier, but sadly he's not in here very long. But
Falcon also stood out in this sequence as well,
absolutely.
Which you've got to, you mentioned, I think, when we saw him last in the Winter Soldier, it was just, we were just getting a glimpse of his abilities. I felt in this first sequence in Sokovia, that's what it was, wasn't it?
Sokovia was, I think, in Age of Ultron.
Sorry, I can't remember where it was in.
It was some town.
I can't remember. But
Middle Eastern place.
Exactly. And I think just seeing the sequences, it was all that sort of lead up to the the bin lorry that's sort of using as a battering ram. Just the way he was using his technology, but the fight sequences he was involved in as well were fantastic. And
the use of gadgetry as well, Stephen, that little drone thing, he has a name for it. I can't recall the name.
But Black Widow refuses to thank it. Yeah, that's right.
But again, just showing you what these characters can do, absolutely amazing. Black Widow in particular, acrobatics, and the way the camera work was following it. How far we've came since that horrendous 93 Captain America movie where there was about 50,000 cuts showing different movements, because it's clearly not the same guy doing the movements. I think, it may not be Scarlett Johansson, it probably isn't. She's good, but she's not that good, but it seamlessly blends. And it's just beautiful. It made to look like a one continuous shot.
John, that's why you pay good money for a good cinematographer.
It certainly is. I don't know who did the cinematography in this. I'll find out when I go into the next point and pass it over to you, Stephen. But look, speaking about visuals, Robert Downey Jr. appears in the next sequence, obviously as the great Tony Stark. He's de-aged. It's one of the maybe younger de-aging processes we've seen, because obviously we've had the likes of Kurt Russell, we've had Michael Douglas.
Yeah. I think this was the first time though, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
And he's a lot younger than those other ones. He's much younger. I think he's maybe late teens, early 20s. We've spoke about this before we came on, Steve. In hindsight, it does look he looks a little pasty now, a little bit too smooth.
Not as bad as Patrick Stewart in the X-Men 3 film.
Oh, no.
He looked like a spoon, he just looked weird. But
looked like Tilda Swinton, Doctor Strange.
He certainly did. Technology. The technology in this one, John, is you're talking 4 years ago now. It still holds up, to be fair. You've got to obviously look at this thing. It's 4 years old. But it's not jarring or anything like that. He does look a little bit young round, but I think it's just because we're used to seeing Robert Downey Jr. the way he is now as well. With the facial hair and stuff like that. So it does take you back to a time, when he was starting out, in the film industry. But I thought it was a good sort of reminder. Not just it was very subtle, because the focus is obviously on the young Tony Stark, but having his parents in there and having the actors back to do that sequence actually sets up very well for later on in the film. It
certainly does, Stephen. Obviously, it's all skewed through a sort of MIT chat he's doing. I don't know what you'd call it. Forum. He's breaking down for students and whatnot, and it's like a sort of it's cool. But again, it shows you he's harbouring some regrets about the way he handled his last time that he was with his parents.
Yeah.
And then, as you did say, that has interesting emotional ramifications for later on in the movie.
Yeah.
The cinematographer, incidentally, is Trent Apalock. Hope I've said that right. He's worked in nearly every goddamn MCU movie in existence. Endgame, Infinity War as director of cinematography, Elysium, District 9, Captain America and The Winter Soldier. This guy is incredible. He just knows what he's doing. So I'm amazed. I'm embarrassed I didn't know that was a cinematographer.
I'll put my hands up, John. I didn't know that either.
But he's worked in nearly every MCU movie. Probably not everyone, but the big ones anyway. Yeah. Probably for the Russos. Every director has their guy. But Stephen, I digress. I can't say what I've wrote next about Thaddeus, but
the chat with Miriam, John, was
the chat with Miriam.
This was when he came off the stage at MIT, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he met. I take it that's the woman, isn't it? He meets just at the elevator. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the young boy that dies in Sokovia. He's doing like work for a charity. He's helping homeless people. He dies during the battle in Age of Ultron. She reveals, look, you think you're heroes. I'm heavily paraphrasing here. But you're not, you only care about yourself. So they killed him by dropping a house on him or something. Yeah. And again, that shows you that there is
ramifications.
I don't want to keep using that word, but ramifications.
That's the first time I've used it.
Yeah, I can't think of a synonym for it, so I'll maybe have to Google that just now because I'm already about 5 in.
The consequence,
yes, of their actions.
Yeah.
When they're doing their big heroic things, sometimes there's casualties, unwanted casualties. And again, sets up the next scene where you've got Thaddeus coming in. He's laying down the law, essentially saying, you think he's a great, but really he's a, I can't recall what the hell it is he says, but he's a bad guy, basically, heavily paraphrasing again. He's I can't go on, he's a CUNT, that's what I want to say. I've said something else in my notes.
Yeah.
Dislike the guy, didn't like him in the Hulk either, he's a bit of a shithead. But he's telling them they can't continue on as is, basically. He's setting up Sokovia Accords. They're going to be drawn into the government and they'll only be able to go on missions and kill the bad guys when the government decides that it's right to do so. And that's because of what happened in Age of Ultron, what happened with that young guy dying and whatnot. And this is a really important scene, Stephen, because obviously it sets up that fractious nature for the Avengers in this movie. They're split. Half of them want to sign the accord, half of them don't, including Cap. He doesn't want to sign it. He's adamant that they should be the arbitrators of when they go and do different things and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a long sequence as well. We've obviously got the death of Peggy flung in there too. That's hugely important to Captain America.
Yeah.
It's his last sort of grasp to his old life. That reaffirms that he has to go and try and redeem Bucky any way possible. So that's clashing with this Sokovia Accord thing as well. What did you make of this whole sequence? Obviously, King T'Chaka dies as well, and they frame Bucky
it's
for it.
It's also a nice little reveal with that agent that was living across the hallway. It's actually Peggy's great niece, I think.
Yeah.
What I say? Yeah.
Steve's,
Auntie Peggy, yeah. So
Steve gets a little too close there as well. It's a bit strange, Steve.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
Up that, I know. I think when you actually see, Bucky and what's his face?
Sam.
And the Beetle. They're kind of just smirking at themselves. What are you playing at? But well, that's far ahead. But you know something, John. There was a lot happening at this point in the film. obviously the Sokovia Accords is where obviously the fracture begins. I've got to be honest with you. That sounds like I'm sitting on the fence, but I can actually see it from both sides, both point of views, from Tony Stark's and obviously Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers actually makes a good point though in regards to what they might see as something they have to intervene in. The government might not allow them to, and he doesn't. Things are a lot more black and white with Steve Rogers. There's no sort of grey area with him, whereas with Tony Stark there's a lot of grey areas. He's dealt more with the government and the agencies and stuff like that more so than Captain America has. So sometimes that the character Captain America can come off a little naive at times. And the handling of the character, that is, John, you spoke about this the other day in regards to the way he's handled in the Avengers films. Sometimes they do that to him. They make him sound like too much of a Boy Scout. But in this case, I did agree with him. There's going to be some times where they have to make a split decision, call on certain events and stuff like that. I can't wait for paperwork and the black tape to be, removed before they can do this kind of thing. So obviously the logistics things. Captain America always acts on instinct. That's one of the traits of the character, and he finds this to constrictive. So I understand where it's a great way to set them up. You know, obviously the film's called Civil War.
Yeah.
They're going to be arguing, fighting, battling amongst themselves, and this is a great way to do it.
And in a sense, even it's the two leaders, the sort of quasi-leaders of the Avengers. I mean, it's Steve Rogers and it's Tony Stark, and they're get big egos and they're coming together. One's got his idea on where it should go, the other has his idea, and never the two shall meet. Also, later on, we've got Tony Stark having a conversation with Steve in that sort of detention centre, for lack of a better word, and he reveals that there's a slight ulterior motive in his madness, and that he wants to sign this accord because it could make him get in more with Pepper Potts, because he promised her that he would rein in a little bit, so if he signs the accords he's got less things to do with his time, he then can go back with her. And then also with Steve, as you did say, slight man out of time, a little bit naive, but you need to remember as well, he's probably from the World War II era where there was Nazis. There was a lot of apologists around that time with the Nazis, letting them get away with too much, and then also it started the World War, so he's probably of the mentality, nip it in the bud, get it ended now, and then there'll be no more nonsense later on, you'll save lives and whatnot. So I can see again both sides, you're right, and that's a theme throughout this Civil War, but never do I really see myself siding one way with one of that. Well, I do Captain America, even though I'm wearing this goddamn hat,
because of what he's trying to do for his friend John.
And it's because he's right as well, Stephen. Also, he's confirmed to be correct at the end of the movie, so I'm talking absolute shit here. But look, Stephen, death of T'Chaka as well, very cool sequence. Obviously they're having this big, again I don't know what you'd call it, sort of committee. He's doing a speech on why it's important they all come together and sign this accord. Lives will be yada 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 saved. There'll be less trouble for cities and whatnot getting destroyed without any consequence, for lack of a better word again, ramification. And obviously they then frame Bucky, the Winter Soldier, for this. I knew it wasn't him. I knew it was an elaborate ruse, because at this point we do have Zemo sneaking around like a little snake in the grass, getting up to no good. I think he tortures some Russian guy, some Hydra
hangs
agent.
Him upside down,
hangs him upside down. So you know he's manoeuvring in the shadows, trying to do something behind the scenes. And again, it's clearly not him.
It's funny, John, because it's so out of place as well. You know, especially with the setup of the introduction of the film, where the Winter Soldier's very in the background, in the shadows, doing his missions and stuff like that. This is like
broad daylight,
in front of cameras and stuff like that. It's too obvious, Yeah,
and he's too professional for that, Steve. He wouldn't get caught. If you see that later on in the movie, he shoots he does get caught, so I'm talking crap, but he's meticulous in his ways. But Stephen, obviously that takes us on to when Cap goes out. I want to say it's in, I can't even recall, Bucharest. I don't think it is Bucharest, but it's not Germany, but German secret forces raid the flat. It's some European country anyway. He goes to his flat, he tracks him down. That entire sequence is amazing. Once again, it's that, do you know who I am? You're Steve.
Yeah.
He's still kind of grappling with his memories and whatnot. These forces raid the flat. There's amazing action. There's stuff going on with the shield as well. He's ricocheting it off things and whatnot.
Yeah.
Bucky is just letting rip down that staircase.
Yeah.
Jumping on people. There's a great moment where he throws one of the soldiers off the balcony after saying he wouldn't kill anybody. Well, he's hitting them with ramming rods and whatnot, so he's just about killing them. But Captain America catches the guy and he just looks at him and says, "Come on."
Yeah.
As if, Jesus Christ, come on, I'm trying to redeem you here. Just amazing humour, incredible action, again, cinematography. It almost reminded me of Atomic Blonde, even though that came out after, when it's winding round the staircase.
Was there a helicopter sequence in this film?
There was a helicopter sequence later on with Captain. He grabs the helicopter and uses his strength, shows off his guns. That's what it's all about, just to show all that hard work he's did.
Yeah.
Stephen, what did you make of that sequence? It's quite an extended sequence. We're going out over rooftops and whatnot, but it's very, very cool as well. What did you make about that?
It was just going back to sort of that position that these two in their relationship and the Winter Soldier. It was very similar to that. It was almost a continuation of that, actually, where you just don't know if Bucky's 100% Bucky Barnes or not, or whether or not he is the Winter Soldier. And obviously Cap, he's still trying to look out for his friend, but he's not 100% sure whether or not he's fully there, and also, going back to the sequences, John, again, it's very contained because it's in a sort of an apartment block or something like that, I think, and some of the sequences was great. I think that the shield was really used a lot.
There was a scene in this film where the shield ricochets off 4 different surfaces and hits a soldier in the head who's hiding behind a pillar. I don't know if it's this scene, but he ricochets and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that is epic. And Spider-Man later on makes a remark about that shield doesn't obey the laws of gravity or physics or whatnot. Stephen, but also that expands out. We get that car chase sequence with Black Panther and whatnot. Falcon's in there. Again, he's using these skills.
They're all chasing each other.
And it's extraordinary, really, because you get to see Bucky grabbing someone off of a bike at 60 mile an hour. It spins round and he goes right onto it in one fluid motion.
It's very
fantastic.
Fluid,
And then also the tunnel sequence and whatnot, just full to the brim with action. This whole movie is just balls to the wall action, frenetic from start to finish. Really, there is some quieter moments, but we don't remember them. We remember all of the big bombastic action sequences. Don't know if you've got anything else to add to that before we move swiftly onwards.
I thought the action in the pacing of the film was very similar to The Winter Soldier. Especially the chase scene. I thought that was incredible. Some of the CG again blended in with practical just works well.
I didn't like the War Machine saying to Captain America, "Oh, congratulations, Cap, you're a criminal." I'm like, come on,
I know,
come on now, Jesus Christ, man, he's the man. You're not calling him a criminal. He may be doing something that's different to your views, but he believes he's firmly right. He's not a criminal. He's the ultimate good. Get yourself to hell, War Machine. I'm trying to use some polite words here. I really want to say something else, but I will not do that. Stephen, afterwards, Vision and Scarlet Witch have says. There's numerous things going on here. She's under house arrest for what happens in the first action sequence involving her, where she puts crossbones up, contains the grenade explosion, but subsequently blows out a whole floor of a building. That means that she's now under arrest, essentially, because she's not an American citizen. She can't be allowed out. Vision's stopping her from getting out, although at any point she could overpower him, I have no doubt. Av merely says all the best romance starts with a dose of Stockholm Syndrome. And look, they've now developed into a blossoming romance. We've got the WandaVision TV show. She's going back to multiverses to be with him. All starts with this. Him placing her under house arrest and looking after her. Very odd sequences in here. He's wearing a shirt at one point, I think.
I think he's cooking for her as well. But he's
paprika.
It's all weird, John, especially wearing that shirt. It just doesn't look right. A white shirt with that face, come on. It's just, and the teeth.
Looks like pepperoni. Pepperami, I should say.
It looks like the Red Skull from the Captain America film from 1990. It just looks crazy, but John, we obviously know where these two characters end up, but obviously it has to begin somewhere, and you're right, it is, there is probably a dose of Stockholm Syndrome in there. Vision comes across a bit creepy, I don't know if you agree with me. It's just a bit
Stephen, he's red,
very possessive. He's obviously been given these instructions from Tony Stark, to make sure she doesn't leave the building, but I don't think at that point she's really wanting to. I think she's feeling a lot of guilt, her actions as well. But obviously this is a good setup to obviously bring Clint Barton back into the mix as well. Yeah,
and Stephen, also again, it's hammering home the consequence of actions and whatnot. There is always consequences, and having to balance that. You're a superhero, but if your heroic actions cause misery for others, you need to. That in a lot of ways, this movie goes into that in some degree or level. But then obviously, as you did say, I'm not getting onto that right now. There's another bit in here I'm about to jump way ahead of. Tony and Steve's chat. I was about to talk about Clint Barton, the introduction of another certain famous character into this movie. But Tony and Steve have a chat. I hinted at it earlier. They're kind of amicable, but they're bickering and it ends in tears. I think he makes a remark about, obviously, Wanda and Maximoff being under house arrest. Just as Steve's about to sign the accord, and he's like, well, screw you, I'm away, and that's all that. And then we also see the Zemo re-brainwashing sequence of Bucky. He goes out and just wreaks utter chaos. One of my favourite sequences in this movie, incidentally.
It's carnage,
the force behind the man's punches and kicks, he is just wrecking everybody. The only person that can really stop him in a way is Black Panther. He flings him off of a balcony or something, but even then it doesn't stop him. He breaks out, and then you have that helicopter sequence that I was speaking about, where good old Steve grabs onto it and shows he's an incredibly strong man, and he has ridiculously large biceps, much bigger than mine, but look, he's a bigger guy than me. So Stephen, what did you make of that sequence, is what I'm saying, really.
Yeah, listen John, it's exactly what it is, it's just to really show his physique off. Was there any need for it? He's obviously trying to hold his friend back, and try to bring him back in before he flies off. But it's just one of these things. But you're right, that whole scene with the brainwashing and obviously the consequence of that as well was absolute carnage. But it shows again the brute force of the Winter Soldier as well, especially with that arm. I mean, he's a great hand-to-hand combat soldier.
Very quick runner as well.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Incredibly
he really
quick.
is. And you see that during the chase scene earlier on. But no, I loved it, John. It shows the sort of the weaselness of Zemo as well. I think he actually cuts the power or something like that at one point, and everything goes dark. So
that was very cool.
So he can. Did you notice one of the words was homecoming as well?
Yeah.
I think that was deliberate.
Yeah, there's a couple of little Easter eggs in this movie, Stephen. I thought that was wonderful, the way it all interconnects into previous movies. That's just one of the things you've got to love about these MCU movies, the way it's all crafted to come together homogeneously. After that, I have says, obviously Tony Stark goes off. They realise that he's done a run. He's went rogue with obviously Bucky and Sam. They've went to this warehouse. They discover the actions of what's happening with Zemo, because obviously Bucky reveals to them there is multiple Winter Soldiers in the Siberian facility.
Yeah.
He reveals what the hell's going on and all that jazz. And the other side of things, Tony Stark realises he's not going to stop. He's determined he's going to save or try and redeem his old friend, who he thinks is a Wrongian, who's responsible for the death of T'Chaka and other innocents. So he goes off. I think he has a conversation with Natasha, and she says, we're undermanned. If you get someone in mind, he goes to Queens and speaks to good old Peter Parker, and that's the first time we get Peter in the MCU, the first time we see Tom Holland as the iconic character. Very young-faced, sort of green-nosed.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought he looked young, but when going back and watching this film, it shows you how young he is,
how
young he was.
Yes, not I.
Obviously, Spider-Man's introduction is set up, John. There was obviously... we've got to go back to talk about this now. Obviously, the trailer, the reveal of Spider-Man in that trailer, the airport
I wish they didn't do it.
I don't know, John. I think it's one of those things when it was announced, they could not keep this a secret, because people for about 2 decades, everyone knows more or less the story between Marvel and how close they were to bankruptcy and had to sell off some of their key characters to other studios, the Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, etc. And everyone that came with Spider-Man sort of collectively, like Venom and stuff like that. But it was one of those things that people were waiting for a good while to see. I don't think anyone believed it was going to happen. That's why we were getting the Tobey Maguire trilogy. That's why we were getting the Andrew Garfield 2 films, because Sony were very content, I think, with releasing Spider-Man films every maybe 10 years or whatever, as block films and storylines with different actors. So it didn't look like it was ever going to take place, and I think when the news was announced that Marvel and Sony had came to an agreement for the character to appear in the MCU, it was very big news. So I think at that point, when they were making the trailer, they realised we can't keep this a secret. Everyone knows about it now. Let's just get them in there, but we'll keep it as a sort of little surprise, a cameo, if you like, within the trailer. I thought it was great, John, and I think it's one of the most reacted trailers on YouTube as well. Just because of that. And when you watch some of the reactions from some of the folk that did this at the time, it's absolutely amazing that just how much love this character's got with people that have grown up with the character, whether it be in Sony's studios or regardless. Going back to the comic book stuff, the animation stuff and all that, it just didn't seem right that Spider-Man was not in the MCU. Yeah,
Stephen, look, I've always maintained he's my favourite Marvel character of all time. I remember the Tobey Maguire movies. I think you actually went and seen the first Spider-Man movie ever made, perhaps, in the 80s, I want to say.
1978, I think it was. It was Nicholas Hammond. It was actually a TV movie. It was in the cinema. It was a strange occurrence. It was just because it was the first of its kind, if you like.
Yeah, so don't forget that sort of connection. We both love, obviously, Spider-Man, and to see him coming in for the first time, truly remarkable. Obviously, this is a quieter little sequence as a prelude to what's happening next in that airport sequence.
Yeah.
And he has that conversation. I've said palpable right away, the great chemistry between Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Holland. You can already see them bouncing off of each other. There's great humour in there. There's a couple of quotes, I think I wrote them down. I don't know if I'll be able to find them in time. Basically, he's saying you need to upgrade systemic 100-point restoration. He's calling him Spiderling and Spider Boy.
Spiderling.
So there's great humour bouncing off, and that's something that continues on into Homecoming. And obviously, he's amazing with his movie references. He says something about Hoth, Empire Strikes Back, in the airport sequence, which will take me into that.
Very old film, yeah.
Very old, yeah. Come on, man, it's not that old. Jesus Christ, 1982,
1980, yeah.
1980. Return of the Jedi was 82, 83, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Stephen, obviously, the airport sequence, so everybody thinks about that when they think of this movie. We were actually speaking about it, though. It's not a great big finale. This is really the middle of the movie. No. This is setting up what's to come.
Yeah.
First time we get the warring sides together, though. It's iconic in a sense when you have them facing off and whatnot. Again, there's great humour in there, though. You have the likes of Scott Lang chipping in. Incidentally, we didn't even speak about his first introduction to Captain America. I think you thanking you or something like they says.
Thanks for thanking of me.
Thanks for thanking of me. So you get Paul Rudd humour right away.
He's fantastic,
and it continues on in.
You cannot love this guy. It's very easy to say Paul Rudd just acts like Paul Rudd in these films, but there's something very charismatic about his humour as well.
Yeah.
And he's such a likeable guy. I think that's one of the reasons that people are getting excited about this new Ghostbusters film with his involvement. He's just one of these guys that can't offend, and everyone gets his humour. Doesn't age at all. I think he's 50 now, isn't he? Or 51. And he just looks the same as he did, 20 years ago. I love Ant-Man. We've talked about this character, John, time and time again, that, out with the sort of big sort of characters, the standalones, Doctor Strange and Ant-Man are kind of our favourites. And he just fits in there. He's always the guy that he's the sort of butt of the joke as well. We'll obviously find that out later on, in the prison sequence as well. Tony Stark's very dismissive of him as well. And, Scott Lang's just want to be part of the team, but he wants to be an equal, and he wants to do his best. Some of his lines are quite cheesy, but they're deliberately cheesy, handing back the shield to Captain America and calling him Captain America as well at this point. He's not quite comfortable yet to call him Cap, but just his introduction. He asked for
oranges as well.
And I think he actually puts his hands up to his chest and he's just checking him out, and he says, "You're awesome," and he turns around to Wanda and says, "Oh, you're great too." It's just something really likeable about this guy,
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. Look, it just exudes out the screen. There's something about him. I love Ant-Man. I love those movies. Had no idea about that character prior to those movies, but it's just Paul Rudd. Even getting back to Friends and whatnot, he's just a fantastic guy off and on screen. But that sequence, there's just all sorts going on. He's shooting down to small size, big size. We've got Black Panther facing off against Clint Barton.
Yeah.
Clint, I think, says to Tony Stark at one point, I think he says, "You're not retired now, you're fed up with golf." "Yeah, I played 18 holes, I scored 18, I never miss." And then he shoots an arrow at him and he says, "Well, there's a first for everything, made you look," or something along those lines. Again, blending the humour, the action, all these charismatic superheroes into the one screen. They're facing off against each other, and I've said in a sense it's kidology, because they don't really want to fight each other. I think you've got Natasha saying to Clint at one point, "We're still friends, aren't we? As long as you don't hit me hard enough." Things like that. There's hundreds of little moments in there, but it all leads to one thing. It leads to, obviously, Captain America and Bucky escaping and going to Siberia, and then all of the other ones that are not going to appear in, obviously, Infinity War get placed under arrest, and that explains their absence later on in the Avengers franchise. But all in all, it was just an amazing fighting sequence. Can't really take anything away from that. It is iconic now in the MCU. After that, though, what do we have after that? We have I've just pondered again, do we agree with one particular side watching this, or could you see the rationale for both? I think we've answered that one. We could quite easily see the rationale for both, but in the end, Captain America is ultimately right, as he usually is.
And Tony, he finds
from his
out,
point of view, he's right.
Yeah, but he obviously finds out the face recognition thing was a setup, and it was just to set up the Winter Soldier. So obviously at this point, he admits he got it wrong, So up to that point, I was probably siding with Cap more, just because we knew he was right. We knew that the Winter Soldier Although it's not confirmed, you just know that it wasn't him, involved in those bombings. But it's a nice setup, John, because obviously the crash scene is going to be the one that will sort of flip it back again to the sort of confrontation between these two big characters. But we're not there yet, John.
No.
But I mean,
floating
I think
mega prisons.
Yeah,
what did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean,
is that feasible? A submarine prison?
I don't know.
That a helicopter can
know.
land into?
You saw in the Winter Soldier those three. Yeah. We called them Star Destroyers.
Still don't know what they're called.
No, I don't actually
Heli
care.
vehicle.
Yeah. The prison, there's always going to be the consequence of the ones that were siding with Cap. Once they were caught, they were going to be somewhere. Very high tech. There's a line, I think we can say this now, obviously, Scott Lang saying, Hank Pym was right about the Starks can't be trusted or something like that. So and Tony Stark,
they don't like each other.
Just basically says, "Who are you again?" And you can see the frustration in Scott Lang's face. It's me, Ant-Man. It kind of it foreshadows what happens with Ant-Man when he's tried to get selfies with the Hulk and stuff like that in Endgame. Nobody knows who he is, and you do feel sorry for him because he's such a great character, but he's just one of the sort of minor characters in the sort of bigger picture of things,
Yeah, is it War Machine that's got a running joke about him as well?
Tic Tac. No, that's
Tiny Man.
Tiny Man, yeah.
Tiny
Falcon calls him Tic Tac, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think War Machine says Tiny Man's a big man now or something like that in the airport sequence.
Yeah.
So there's always a running joke. You're right, he's always the butt of the jokes, much like Peter Quill is. Peter Quill. It's not Quaid. Yeah. Peter Quill is when Thor comes in. He's always like the butt of the jokes. You're getting fat and whatnot. Is he hell? Jesus Christ, man. He is ripped, Chris Pratt. For these roles anyway. After he starts eating 50 ribs and whatnot and puts the pounds back on, he doesn't care.
No.
But Stephen, talking about prisons, Siberian prison comes up next. Also, Iron Man manages to get there before Captain America and Bucky. I don't know how he does that, but he does. And that leads us on to the big reveal. Zemo has been saving for our heroes. He's got one. He's not content with them all fighting in an airport.
No.
He's going to chuck one last grenade in. And also he does a great line. I'll try and find it once again.
That's about the Empire thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Basically about empires crumbling. I'm trying to find it. Jesus Christ. An empire that's toppled by its enemies can be rebuilt again, but one that's crumbled from within, that's dead. Obviously he's proven wrong at the end of the movie, but that was a great line.
Yeah.
And he throws that little... Incidentally, he kills all the other Winter Soldiers in their sleep, the slimy little shit.
Yeah.
But we spoke about that totally. It's not possible to have those guys. You'd need Thanos to overpower them. It would be overkill.
I mean, the MCU itself is multi-layered, John, but if you're going to go down the road of introducing 4 more Winter Soldiers, it's going to be chaos and carnage,
Yeah, and then obviously we see the crash sequence afterwards. I want to say CCTV footage, but that's probably not the right terminology. We finally get payback for that opening sequence and him hunting a mission report for 1991. He keeps going on about it, Zemo.
Yeah.
We finally know why he's obsessed with it, what the hell happens, because he knows that's the only way to bring these guys who are great friends, who are starting to clump back together and be a conducive partnership once again. He knows how to separate them, split them is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And that's through this footage of obviously Tony Stark's parents being killed by the Winter Soldier. It's a big reveal. It is a big reveal.
I'll tell you something else. The way that Winter Soldier executes them as well, especially Tony's dad, it's very brutal.
Absolutely.
He did that thing we were talking about in Dead Man's Shoes, the whole nose thing.
Yeah.
I think he did that about 4 times though. So he was done.
Just made sure.
And it was the way he dragged them back into the car to make it look like it was a crash as well.
Yeah.
Well, it was a crash, but obviously,
he died of the crash. Yeah.
And then I think he strangles his mother.
Yeah.
But it's a brilliant setup, John. And it kind of shows that the sort of battle between, or the civil war between, Captain America and Iron Man is just about to begin now, because obviously this was what Zemo was aiming for to begin with, and
we know why later on. He has a conversation.
Well, he has a dialogue with obviously Black Panther, and that's a great scene. We'll get to that obviously, but this obviously sets up this absolute chaos. Within this, it's a very contained,
claustrophobic
base, isn't it? So it's very secure.
Call it a prison. It's not a prison.
It's a very secure base. So and obviously drawing them into that was deliberate. So there was no escape for them. Well, there was an escape. There was always that hatch that obviously Bucky was trying to get out of. Tony Stark puts a lid on it. But that whole fight sequence was fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of good dialogue between both Tony Stark and Steve Rogers as well in this, about friendship and loyalty and that kind of thing. But you can understand Steve's conflict. He knows that Bucky has done these things, but he still sees this character as not himself when he did these things. Bucky, to be fair to him, says it doesn't matter, Steve, I still did these things.
Yeah, it was going there.
So it was, that's one of the things we've kind of touched on in this whole review, John. But the dialogue in this film was some of the best, I think. For the characters and their relationships, where they were, where they are at that point in the film, and obviously where they're going to be later on in the obviously the later films like Infinity War, etc. But that whole base battle was fantastic. There was a bit where they were tag teaming. They had Iron Man in the middle, and it was just an amazing sequence. Just
put me in mind of Thanos and Thor, and obviously Iron Man and Captain America all going together at the end of Endgame. Yeah, seen with some amazing visual moments in this. Obviously, the shot where Iron Man's using his blasters, I don't know what they're called actually. And it's ricocheting off of Captain America's shield. That silhouette, that's almost reminiscent to me of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker on Bespin when the two lightsabers come together. It's so iconic, that shot, for me anyway. Perhaps not for other people, but the silhouette through those slitted windows, just stunningly shot once again. Obviously that's a lot of CG it's in there, because he's not actually firing plasmic stuff off a vibranium shield.
I think their insurance companies are rely on,
Health and safety would be going crazy. But you're right, there's so many great moments of dialogue. He's my friend, so was I. I think once he downs, and incidentally, when he does down Iron Man, finally, he's cut off Bucky's metallic arm and whatnot, just back and forth. At one point, I think he says, I can go all day, I can do this all day, and Iron Man's about to take him out. He's like, no, you aren't. But then just the symbolism of him taking out Tony Stark's suit, and also the core with the shield that his father made. That is highly symbolic, if I can speak. Because obviously he says, I'm sorry you killed my mother. And there's this sort of fractured relationship with Tony Stark and his father. They just couldn't quite work things out. There was always that sort of ego. They both bounced off each other.
I remember.
So for him to be taken out with something that his father crafted, it was kind of symbolic.
I almost forgot, John. Well, I did forget. When we went to see Endgame, and Captain America being reunited with his shield, made me forget how he'd lost it in the first place, or gave it up. Well, obviously that line, that shield doesn't belong to you. You don't deserve to have that shield, and he just drops it. I actually did forget that.
And obviously, as I did say, that's symbolic as hell. And then, as you did say, he drops it, and that lasting shot on the shield being dropped, it's almost like, that's it, I'm done with this life. Also, we know that's not true. But it's not until Infinity War, I think, when is it Infinity War?
Well, he's got the sort of he's got the Wakanda shield in Infinity War.
That's right, because it's also the train station sequence in Edinburgh, where he pops up with the magnificent beard and whatnot. Lucky shit, he's got a head of hair and a beard. Damn you to hell, you're 6 foot and you're ripped. Is that anything you ain't got, Chris? You're shit. But obviously that's an amazing shot, an amazing sort of fake finale, because we do get another finale. Lots of fake finales in these Captain America movies. I don't know what the hell that's all about. But yes, getting on to, after that we have Stan Lee's cameo. He turns up as a delivery driver and he says, I've got a parcel for Tony Stank. And also we see the recuperation of the War Machine as well. He's letting him get on his feet.
Rudy,
And he says, you'll never live that down, Stank, we'll keep that. And then the final shots reveals that Zemo is not correct. Incidentally, we never spoke about the Black Panther chat with Zemo. There is some poignancy to that character. There's a tragic reveal that his wife and his young son and his father, I want to say, all died because of what happened. Is it in Sokovia? That happened. He thought they were miles away, and then he ends up, they die, and he says, I can't take on all of these powerful men, they would kill me.
It's set up, John, obviously, for the Black Panther standalone film. It shows the character's got a lot of empathy. despite what's happened in this film, and despite of the events of what happened and the consequence to his father, that it shows that he's got that. It stops him shooting himself.
Yeah.
So it's a great scene, John. It's nothing that had to be in there. They could have easily just disposed of Zemo very easily.
Well, he's coming back, isn't he?
So, yeah, I mean, it's a great scene, but I see it more as obviously a setup for Black Panther rather than a conclusion to Zemo's story, because certainly it's not.
Yeah, and obviously, Stephen, that moment where Black Panther realises that vengeance isn't key, it isn't the be all and end all. That change in mentality allows Bucky to then be brought to Wakanda and have his the brainwashing reversed by, I think it is Shuri, it does it, or Zuri. And that's highly important for the last two Avengers films. Also, at the end, Zemo's proven wrong as well. He thinks that an empire that crumbles from within is dead. Well, it's not.
No.
We see that letter from Steve Rogers to Tony Stark, revealing that there'll always be an olive branch. He gives the phone. I think he uses that in one of the Avengers.
He does, yeah. He uses it in Infinity War. Yeah. It's the phone, because it's a very outdated phone. Yeah.
And obviously that reveals that he's wrong. He's talking shit, that there's always going to be a degree of camaraderie within the Avengers as a unit, not Avengers. I keep wanting to say that, and now that I've said it once, I'm just going to keep saying it. Performances, Stephen, in this movie, standouts, not just standouts from actors, but standout characters. I mean, that's a hard one. I think Black Panther's a real standout. What he does in this movie is a bit of a nuisance at one point, because he just won't leave Bucky alone. I'm like, just leave him alone.
Yeah.
He's not the guy that's done it, but he's so cool, he's so strong, those claws are amazing. Even in the airport sequence, he rips a gash right down the vibranium shield. It's revealed that he has a vibranium suit as well, that obviously that's where it comes from. It comes from Wakanda. They have large quantities of it. I do believe it does anyway. But was there any other standout characters in terms of performances? I mean, this is a real ensemble.
I was going to say that, John.
It's
very different to the Winter Soldier in that sense, where we were actually talking the other day about the likes of Scarlett Johansson's performance. I don't think there's any you can really pick out. If I had to pick a standout performance amongst them all, probably Martin Freeman's accent. Absolutely amazing.
I'd never spoke about that.
It's one of the most convincing American accents I've ever heard. Not. But all joking aside,
and he continues it in Black Panther.
Chris Evans, for me, is probably, it's his film. You've got to remember that. Amongst all the mayhem and the big cast and all these larger than life characters coming together for this film, Steve Rogers, for me, he carries the film. And obviously Chris Evans' performance, he just ups the ante once again. In his physical sort of. From a physical point of view, as well as obviously his acting as well. He was made for this role, and I just think this is where it peaked for me. The Winter Soldier really upped the ante from the first Avenger. This one topped it again for me. Yeah,
absolutely, Stephen. The only other one I would perhaps mention would be Robert Downey Jr, because he's like the Godfather in the MCU. He's literally off screen. He's like the Godfather. He brings everything together.
Yeah.
Manages things and whatnot. Just a great guy, apparently, with all the other actors. So perhaps him as well, because Tony Stark does have quite a say in this movie too. The things with his parents and whatnot, that undercurrent of emotion, that was pretty cool. I was going to touch briefly on the technical aspects of the movie, but I think we've pretty much done that to the death as well. Henry Jackman did a really good score. There's little undercurrents of Avengers style stuff going in, but then you've got that military, I don't even know, like trumpet Captain America things going on as well. But yeah, I mean, final thoughts on this movie, Stephen. For me, still one of my favourites. I just love the Captain America trilogy.
I think it's the strongest, John.
Yeah.
We were talking just before we came on as well, saying that you can watch these films, the First Avenger, the Winter Soldier, and Civil War, all back to back, missing everything else out that goes in between, and it still makes sense as a story.
And that's great.
That's one of the things that you've got to commend Marvel Studios for. They've really set this franchise up with a lot of thought and a lot of engineering. Other studios can maybe take note from that when they're setting up these sort of franchises going forward, because I think what they've did certainly for the last 12-13 years has been nothing short of a miracle. the way they set this up, way back in 2008, and introduced this world or this universe with one of the sort of secondary characters, showed the sort of confidence they had with the producers and the directors all involved, and obviously the casting as well was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And this film for me is one of the best. It also kind of sets up what's to come, with Infinity War and Endgame. This is a sort of light version of it, but it shows that they can handle, a multi-array of characters in the one film, giving them all equal sort of screen time. No one's forgotten about. No one really stands above everyone else, other than obviously the fact that this is a Captain America film, and you've got Robert Downey Jr. in there as well. But apart from that, John, I don't think anybody really stood out in the sense, characters that is, that they were overshadowing anyone else.
Stephen, you're right. Everything you says there is right. The connectivity, if I can say it, it's not that hard a word, of the standalone trilogies and independent movies. They all blend into each other naturally, but then there's just enough snippet of Easter eggs and other stuff happening from the other movies that you can watch it standalone, but you can also watch it renewed with all the other information, and it works. It adds a different level to it. And what you did say about the Russos as well, you're bang on. That was a sort of precursor to moving on to those Avengers movies, and they proved in this one and in The Winter Soldier that they had that ability to bring big bombastic action sequences, undercurrents of emotional themes and whatnot, just blending everything together. That's a real tribute to them. Also the army of writers, Kevin Feige, these great actors as well, what they can have accomplished over that time period, the entire Infinity Saga. I loved this. I thought this was like Avengers 2.5 to me. It was just a fantastic movie, just amazing, everything, action, humour, the lot. But look guys, we are done here. What the hell did you make about Civil War when you first seen it? What do you make about it if you've just recently seen it perhaps? You've been living under a rock, I don't know.
Living on the ice.
Yes, living on the ice, yes. Maybe you have been put to sleep like Walt Disney himself in cryogenic ice and you've just woke up and now you've watched Civil War. Maybe you can give us your thoughts down below on it. Do you agree with us? Is it a MCU masterpiece? Obviously, if you are a Martin Scorsese fan, you'll think it's an absolute pile of theme park shit. You don't have to comment below at all, you can just bugger off. If you've got anything to say at all, you can comment below. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I'll breathe now. I can barely breathe. Perhaps I've got coronavirus. And if you do, then you will see us again tomorrow for a review of something. We don't know what it is yet. Possibly a Tarantino film. See you then.